All right. Okay. So we're going to start this webinar. Let me share my screen. Okay. So we're going to start off with just kind of why we're here. And if you want, you can take a minute to kind of notice how you're feeling. Notice if you're bringing any nervousness or if you are running from one place to another and you feel that in your body, just that kind of rushed sensation. Or if you're feeling more relaxed and at ease, maybe you have a break, maybe you're off work today. Um, just kind of notice, spend a moment or two just sitting still. You can close your eyes or keep them open. Take a few breaths and just check in with yourselves. I know I'm feeling a little anxious. It's been a little while since I've done one of these, and every time I do one, I get some nerves. So just bring in that. All right, so let's get started. Um, I'm doing this webinar because, well, for a number of reasons, but um, I've been struck by how many moms will, one of the first things out of their mouths when you ask how they're doing, whether it's your friend or a parent of one of your kids' friends or whatever it might be, just how are you doing? And it's I'm tired or I'm exhausted. So I thought, let's talk about this. Let's kind of unpack and get into why exactly we're so damn tired. We know probably what, why. At least we know many of the reasons that contribute to us feeling so tired. But I'm going to try to take it a little deeper today and then get into maybe what we can do about it. Um, I'm solutions oriented. I don't want to just talk about a problem. I want to hopefully get into, how can we start to work on this problem? Um, so yeah, if you are a mom who's exhausted most every day, if you are exhausted not just by what you have to do day to day, but by the world that we're finding ourselves living in and how it is increasingly more oppressive. Um, I know I've been feeling the weight of that. So many moms I know, so many people in general, but as moms, I think we do carry um, a particular type of weight with that, being that our children are coming up in this world. So I wanted to teach you some strategies on how to create a life that feels less frazzled and more joyful, less overwhelming and more manageable, less isolated and more supported. And of course, we're going to take it one step at a time because none of this changes overnight. All right, so I wanted you just to take another moment to read this and notice what best describes you. You can put that in the chat if you'd like, or just kind of notice it for yourselves. You might feel, yeah, so constantly exhausted, all of the above. Okay. So yeah, we're dealing with any number of these on any given day, and often we feel them all. All right. So in this class, what we're going to go over today are some of the myths that we often believe to be true as mothers. And that's just another way of saying that we have some internalized depression. We'll get into that and explain that a little bit more later. How running ourselves into the ground, doing everything for everyone is keeping us from empowering ourselves to live more fully and authentically. Ways to create a life in which you're able to be the amazing mom that you are while also having the energy to put your skills, your talents, and your passions into whatever other endeavors are calling you. Strengthening your boundaries so that you have time for both work and play and are more able to be present for your family and friends. And just this reminder of saying no is not wrong, it's necessary. And then lastly, learning how to value your wants and needs so that you don't feel guilty whenever you do something for yourself, despite how many others depend on you. All right, so some of those myths I just spoke of. You might recognize being a mother is the most wonderful thing in the world. And now that you're a mother, your life's purpose is fulfilled and should feel grateful. You should feel grateful, satisfied, and happy because of that. In other words, what more could you want? And if you want anything different or more, something must be wrong with you. Being a mom equals being exhausted, run down, and stressed out, that there are no other options. This is just part of it. And certainly there are times when being a mom does bring about exhaustion, but we shouldn't have to live in a state of exhaustion, right? A good mother always puts others' needs first, not her own career, her health, her needs, etc. Mothering is instinctual. So in other words, it should just come naturally to you. And all all women are good mothers, or all women should be born with this natural nurturing instinct, right? So all these are similar myths. All mothers bond with their infants instantaneously. We know now that's not the case, and that's okay. A good mom juggles all the things with a smile because she loves doing everything for everyone all the time. All right, so certainly some aspects of these can be true at times, right? For some people. But what makes them myths is that they are not true for everyone. And some of them are just plain lies. Okay, so does this sound like you? Are you feeling like you have to do everything for everyone all the time? Do you feel like you're an imposter? Like you present yourself like you have it all together, but you feel like you'll never be a good enough mom, friend, partner, or employee because you feel you're so stretched thin? Are you overwhelmed, not just by all you do, but also by all that's unfolding in our state, our country, and our world? Do you feel alone in this struggle? Do you feel disconnected and isolated or misunderstood? Do you wish you could resist or fight back against the injustices that are taking place, but you don't have any energy left to do anything else? All right, if let's see. So do you feel like you've lost yourself in caring for everyone else and that you struggle to even identify your own wants and needs? I hear this a lot. I think this is one that is fairly common. And I mean, all of these are common, but this one I think may come up even more than most. So any of these sounding like you, you're in the right place. All right. So what's the real problem here? I would like to say, I believe this is true, that the real problem beneath all of these things is the patriarchy, the fucking patriarchy. You've probably heard that word thrown around, and many of you smart, intelligent women know what this means, and many of you may not have actually really thought much about it, but the way that this, or what this is referring to, is the fact that we were brought up within multiple systems. So our country, our family, our schools that place a higher value on white men than they do on women or people of color. And they have inherent structures built into them that are oppressive to those other groups. So, we live in America, or maybe you live in a different country, but um, in our country specifically, we've got governments, we've got businesses that all were traditionally started and run by white men, typically white men with some wealth, and their positions were such that the structure that was built with them, the way that they came about, was set up to maintain that structure for other white men, and often other white men of some additional privilege, whether that's wealth or power of some kind. So those structures haven't necessarily gone anywhere. There may be ways that we've kind of picked away somewhat at those systems, those structures, and tried to make some changes here and there. But the structures themselves are largely still upholding um, the value that white men have, or the fact that white men have more value than these other groups within this culture that we live in. Not factually in that they do have more value. Okay. Most of us have internalized these values and beliefs, whether we consciously believe them or not. So, in other words, because we grow up in these systems, because we are a part of them, at some time or another, we're going to absorb the messaging. We're going to those messages are going to have an impact on us. It's nearly impossible for them not to. And in fact, if you don't have any residual internalized sort of oppression, it may be because you've done some work on that. Um, so we are taught to believe the myths of motherhood, to value others before ourselves, and to equate being a mom with staying tired, exhausted, overwhelmed, to think that we are bad if we aren't 100% fulfilled by being mothers. So not only are these patriarchal systems set up to value us less, we often value ourselves and each other less as well. Again, not intentionally, but because we've learned that along the way and it becomes unconscious. So, what do we do about this? Well, traditional coaching programs would suggest, I promise you, that if you follow 5 simple steps, change your mindset, work harder, you too can have the happiness and blissful life of your dreams, right? I mean, wouldn't that be fabulous? This traditional coaching model is, in fact, patriarchal. Um, And we know that this is not necessarily how the world works, but this is often the lie that we are told, and it's bullshit. I'm not here to lie to you. So, any of the ideas that I'm going to present to you today, I'm not suggesting that they are the only way to push back against an oppressive system. They are certainly not the only ways. Um, they are also not the only ways to start healing or feeling better in your own skin. These are simply skills I have learned along the way as a therapist, as a mom, and put into place in my own life as best I can, meaning not perfectly, and which have brought me more fulfillment, energy, motivation, and ability to better manage all the things that life throws my way. So that's what I'm here to share with you. So, why should you listen to me? So, as I mentioned, I am a therapist, which means I've got a master's of arts in counseling psychology. My focus was on art therapy. I'm licensed as a professional counselor here in the state of Louisiana. I am a registered art therapist and I have nearly 18 years of experience. I've conducted several professional workshops. I've taught psychology courses at a local community college. I've co-facilitated diversity and equity workshops with the National Coalition Building Institute Lafayette chapter. I bring my expertise of using creative expression to heal and transform lives and my knowledge of psychology to understand what it takes to change behaviors and how to overcome the obstacles that often get in the way of change. My experience with NCBI has given me a clearer understanding of how to begin to dismantle systems of oppression. So these are just some of the things that I've been up to over the years and where I get some of my background. But perhaps most relevant of all, I am also a mother of two, and the skills and information I'm sharing with you, like I said, have helped me on my journey towards living more authentically and pushing back against oppressive ideas and systems. Because of this, and it is ongoing work, I am no longer feeling burnout, overwhelmed, and exhausted most days. Progress, not perfection, right? So instead, I've been feeling more energized, supported, and motivated to show up in this fucked up world and try to do what I can to make it a little better each day. All right, so let's get into some of the more concrete parts of this class. So, what are some steps you can try on your own that might help you begin on this journey? One that I use with a lot of people I work with, whether in my therapy practice or coaching, is to look at a wellness wheel like we've got here and sit down with your notebook or your journal, make a list of all the different facets on this wellness wheel and write down how you fulfill those areas in your life currently and or how you'd like to fulfill them. So think about things like how many hours a week do you devote to each of these things? And they don't have to be equal. The goal here, from my perspective, is not to create perfect balance with all of these things. Certainly, there are things that each facet brings to our wellness, but that doesn't mean that we need to devote equal amounts of time and energy to all of them in order to feel well. So I think we have to take that individual approach and we need to be realistic, and also think about it in terms of values. Like we are going to have certain things that we value more than others, and that is just the way it is. That's okay. So this is just an exercise to give you a more concrete way of seeing how you're currently valuing these areas of your life, looking at if there's any discrepancies between what you think you value and where you spend your time, and just bringing a little more information or data to your consciousness. If you want to take it a step further, I would encourage you to make a collage. So start pulling together different words and images from magazines or newspapers or any other media you might have around that you can cut apart, and anything that speaks to you, basically. Try not to overthink it. Just pull together any words or images that you're drawn to, and then start gluing them in a way that feels good to you on either a piece of cardboard or a piece of paper. And then sit for a little while and reflect on those images. Consider what they are telling you about any deeper wants, needs, values, and struggles that you have right now in your life. It's amazing how not trying and creating these things spontaneously actually taps into that what's maybe under the surface or a little more unconscious, and helps to bring that to light. So I'd say if you are open, give it a try. You might be surprised at what comes up. All right, next thing, know your blocks. Okay, so understanding why we struggle to implement change, like new habits or lifestyle changes, uh, and understanding what the benefits are of staying stuck is really important. Anytime we're thinking about transforming our life in some way or having some sense of long-term change. So looking at what are the things that typically get in the way, what tends to stop you in your tracks, what are some of the benefits you have when you stay when things stay the way they are, basically. So here is my confession. Like probably all of you or most of you, I have started and stopped many, many different skills, programs, ways of living, and some of them have not stuck at all. Some of them have, but change is hard. And coming back to our status quo, or what we kind of tend to want to do, our default programming, as I sometimes say, it can be quite comfortable, actually, even if it sucks. So it can be very helpful to understand that resistance to growth and change and healing is normal. It can be expected. It's not a sign that we are a failure. It is not an indication that we're not strong enough, we're not good enough, we're not motivated enough. It is simply a part of the process. So when we know these things and we accept them to be true and a part of growing and healing, then we can come up with things like a game plan or a strategy for when those blocks come up in your life. Practice tons and tons and tons of self-compassion. This does not come easily to many of us. And so it is a muscle we have to build and practice, but it is crucial for any kind of change in the long term, because we're going to have hiccups, we're going to have setbacks. And if we can't come to those with some self-compassion, we have more of a tendency to stop in our tracks and give up. Know that we are in it for the long haul. Again, if we're wanting long-term change, we're going to have to be in it for the long haul. And then finding and doing what works for you. So there may be a lot of trial and error. There often is, before you figure out what works best for you. All right. So here's some examples as you're thinking about what you might need along the way to help you with some of these blocks. Excuse me, hang on. All right. So you might have noticed or learned along the years of your life that you really benefit from having accountability. So for you, you may want to consider a one-on-one or group coaching, or buddying up with a friend. Read up on the patriarchy if you don't know much about it. Read up on implicit bias. You can take an implicit bias test. You can Google it and find that. gives you a lot more information about what we're dealing with. And read up on internalized oppression. Talk about it with your friends. Make this something that is out in the open and more that we have more awareness about so that we can begin to unlearn those things. And if you think making a commitment to yourself would help, I know that has helped me along the way at different times. Consider writing it down. So, like a contract to yourself. You might even put it somewhere where you see it every day. For others of you, you might want to try visualization, like picturing yourself feeling empowered with healthy boundaries, managing your life's ups and downs with grace, and finding moments of joy at every opportunity. So, visualization is something that's been proven to help us to stay motivated, proven to help us um, focus on our goals and reach and attain them. All right, another area that's really important, as I kind of touched on previously, kindness and compassion are key. So, we all have our own unique experiences. We have our own gifts and talents and qualities, but it is often so difficult to fully appreciate those things and be kind to ourselves. And part of a kind of unlearning this and beginning to become more kind to ourselves is understanding that the reason it's so difficult is a part of that impact that the patriarchy has on us. And it, as a part of that patriarchy, that patriarchal dominance, we have a perfectionism culture, or even more um, for women when it comes to the way that we present ourselves and the way that we look, but it is across the board in terms of not making mistakes, achieving, and climbing the ladder. All of those things as a part of our culture tend to prioritize or not prioritize, but value perfectionism as if it were attainable. Also, unrealistic beauty standards, which speaking of kind of perfectionism, these are all a part of our society, our culture. All of them come from the patriarchy and the systems that have been in place for hundreds of years. And so we need to recognize that that has an impact on us, that those things are still around us every day. We cannot escape them. And therefore, there's probably going to be some ambivalence. There's probably going to be mixed feelings around any changes that are pushing back against these ideals or these aspects of our culture. So Emily and Amelia Nagoski wrote a book called Burnout: The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. And in this book, they talk about rather than aiming for total acceptance of ourselves and our bodies or complete love and affection for ourselves, to start out with accepting our own ambivalence and working on treating ourselves with compassion. So, because, like I mentioned before, because we still have to navigate this twisted body culture, this twisted, misogynistic culture that we live in and exists all around us every day, this goes um, this goes for the oppressive beliefs about how good mothers should behave and think, and all other systemic isms that are built into our society. We've got to have compassion for ourselves because we are still living with this crap. It is not going anywhere anytime soon. And so it is still going to have an impact on us. All right. And then, I have a little secret. You actually have a lot of the answers within you already. And as I mentioned here, I'm not trying to say that you need to figure it all out on your own and not ask for help or anything like that. Fuck that. What I'm speaking to in this particularly is our own inner wisdom, whether you call that your divine inner wisdom or your inner knowing, or if you've had some therapy, maybe it's your wise mind, but this core part of ourselves that we all have um, that knows when something is right or wrong for you. It knows what you need, it knows what you value and want on a deep core level. Oftentimes we lose track of that. We cover it up with a lot of layers of what other people expect from us, what our families value, what the culture values, what people tell us we need to want and need. And it gets covered up. But as we do some work at developing a way of quieting the world around you, not permanently, but for moments, for little windows of time, and listening for that inner knowing, tapping into your unconscious by getting creative, reflecting on your art. Um, that inner voice is going to become clearer and more assertive. So the more you listen to her, the more you can trust yourself to make decisions that are in alignment with your true nature and values. I say this is a secret because oftentimes we are sort of set up to look for the answers out there. We just need that other product. We need to buy this. We need to do that. And it's mostly focused on external things. And certainly there are times when we need external help and support, and maybe even um, certain tools or medications and things like that that come from outside, certainly. In addition to that, though, we can't forget that we have a deep inner knowing. We have this inner wisdom, and it is probably our number one asset as we're trying to figure out, um, you know, how we can live more fully and how we can feel more fulfilled. All right. So just a quick recap. I'm checking the time here. Good. So far we've kind of gone over some things that you might have begun to recognize, like why it's been so difficult to have a more fulfilling life, why we never feel like we're doing enough or are enough. All of this is coming from our patriarchal culture. Um, you are seeing that it's not about setting unrealistic goals of perfection. It's about understanding the impact that these patriarchal norms and expectations have on the way that we view ourselves, accepting our own ambivalence, and then developing compassion for ourselves as we try to thrive under a set of conditions that's designed to make us feel like we'll never be enough. Um, and you're understanding that you have the power to unlearn and reject these harmful notions that are put on you and others. You can begin to harness your own inner wisdom and build up the support systems you need to live the best life you can while working to dismantle the oppressive systems and make the world better for our kids. So you get that this is a tall order, right? There isn't just one way or even a simple way to do this. But I really truly believe that when we get back to our true creative nature as humans, and I say this because I do believe that all humans are creative beings. We are um, wired to create, and that may look very different for different people, but having that ability to come up with new ideas, to play, to try things out, that is just a part of our nature. And getting back in touch with that, whether it's through art making, through cooking, through making music, whatever it might be, um, is one of the ways that we can reconnect with that inner wisdom. It's how we're going to begin to assert ourselves and bring the fullness of ourselves into fruition. It's not just for our own sake. This is for our kids' sake, for our community. And I have said here, I really do believe this is the key to our world healing. Obviously, that is a long-term, way in the future kind of forethought, whatever. But I I really believe that if we're going to heal this world, this really broken world, that is in crisis right now, the people who are going to do it are going to be women and specifically mothers. We are set up for this. We have been practicing in a lot of ways, nurturing everyone else in our lives. We can learn how to nurture ourselves and figure out not only are we here, maybe not only are we here to be moms in this world, but maybe we are also here to bring other specific gifts that we have into the world that we have. That when we're able to tap into that inner knowing, we are often able to fill ourselves back up more readily. Whereas often, we find ourselves pulled in all different directions for our kids, for our work, whatever it might be, and we lose track of what it is that we actually need to fill ourselves back up. So we just end up feeling really depleted. So this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about ways that we can begin to fill our cup back up, to um, regain a sense of purpose and fulfillment that comes from that deeper knowing. It comes from that inner wisdom and asserting what it is that we want and need, and not just caring for everyone else's wants and needs. All right. So here are some other things I would suggest. Begin to recognize and question the beliefs that you hold unconsciously about other women, mothers, and people of color. Notice when you have a judgment that comes to mind about a particular person in one of these groups, whether it is another mother, another woman, another person of color, whatever it might be. Notice what comes to your mind unconsciously. Notice when you become judgmental. Notice what you're drawn to and what you are uncomfortable around. Just beginning to recognize that there are things under the surface that drive our behavior um, really starts to make those unconscious things more conscious. Begin to prioritize self-care not as a luxury, but as a fundamental right. I cannot, I cannot stress this enough. While I do hate now the term self-care because of how it's been co-opted and used against us in consumer culture, I don't have a better way of saying it right now. When we can figure out what we need to care for ourselves and do those things, prioritize those things, recognize them as our right, we don't feel so fucking tired. We don't. We rest when we need to rest. Um, there are going to be times always when everyone is stressed to the max in your house, and maybe there's not one person who can pick up the slack, and then everyone's going to be tired for a while, but that is not forever. It will usually pass. Um, and when it does, then you might, or even before it passes, you might need to call in some additional resources or um, lean on some family members that are that you trust. But we have to start looking at caring for ourselves as a right, just like we see it as a right for everyone that we care for. We cannot be excluded in that. All right, that's my soapbox. I'm going to get off that now. Um, Invest time in quieting the noise. So, as you probably are already aware of, we spend so much time um, just listening to all of the chatter of the news, TV, phones, um, with notifications going off constantly, and we are distracted nonstop. We are doing multiple things at once. And it is really, really tough to listen to our own inner wisdom when all of that stuff's going on. So while it may seem uncomfortable and difficult at first, finding a way to begin to prioritize that um, and get more accustomed to taking that time, it'll actually become more comfortable as you do it. You may find that honestly, you may find you need some additional support. I've had some people who end up in therapy because of this constant racing around trying to fill up the quiet because it's so intolerable. And oftentimes there's trauma behind that. So if that may be you, looking into ways you can get some healing around that trauma that keeps you from being able to sit in the quiet um, and listen to that inner voice. But this is something that's really important, and it's not something that we um, value anymore as a culture. Create like your life depends on it. I know that's kind of dramatic, but honestly, um, when we make time to be creative, whether it is making art, like I said before, or maybe it's baking, or maybe it's um, playing music, or acting, or who knows what. But when we make time to create and create something new, spontaneous, or something that we work on our own time, that's not some sort of cookie cutter copy of something else someone else has done. When we take the time to get creative and play, um, everything else starts to fall into place. We start to get clarity around what we want. We start to see where our problems arise. We start to see patterns in our behavior, some good, some not so good. Um, we are more likely to get in touch with that inner wisdom and knowing, and feel more confident that we can assert that into the world. I just creativity is paramount to all of this. And I take that from the lens of, or the perspective of, making art, but it doesn't have to come from that perspective. And in fact, it doesn't matter really what way you create, it just matters that you create. So even if you are more comfortable creating by writing stories, if you were to start drawing or doodling spontaneously every day, you might notice that that actually helps stretch your creative muscles and helps you to write better. They're all interconnected. Okay. Um, Write down your dreams. Spend time daydreaming. Get in touch with your imagination. Make time to connect with other women and mothers. This is um, also really important. Talk about these ideas with women and mothers. Brainstorm ways to help each other feel more empowered. Believe in and support each other's creative endeavors. Spend time in nature as often as you can. And when you're in nature, try to connect with all of your senses. Unplug. All of these things build on each other. And perhaps most importantly, I don't want to leave this out. If you find you have deeper wounds that keep showing up and making it hard for you to function, consider finding a therapist or other professional that you like to help you to heal. All right, so I'm going to get into a little bit about the coaching program that I have, and um, that is the Recreate You program. And basically, this is a truly unique coaching program for mothers. It is not, there's not anything out there that I've been able to find on the World Wide Web that takes this particular feminist creativity focused trauma informed perspective that I do. I work to help moms learn all they need to know about the creative process and how you can use that as a tool for self-care and healing and greater self-awareness and goal setting and other things as well. Um, I help moms to learn trauma-informed skills, to recognize when their parasympathetic nervous system is activated, um, or when their sympathetic nervous system is activated, to address that inner critic, all of the resistance and obstacles that might arise when we're talking about change, boundary setting. And it looks like this got cut off, so I'll try to, let's see, here, and more. Aha. Okay, effective strategies that to identify and address unsupportive individuals in your life. Channel anger into action and sustain long-term change. And you have access to high quality coaching without the expensive price tag that comes with one-on-one coaching. You might find other places. So it's group support. You get the support of other moms who are in the program as well and on their own journeys. You get individual guidance weekly. You get one-on-one coaching at strategic points throughout the program. And it's just a really fabulous program, if I do say so myself. Okay, and I mentioned that because registration is actually now open for our next group of moms. And if you're interested, you can sign up for a free clarity call with me and mention the code overflow10 for a 10% discount. So then it becomes not $600, but $540. And with that, there's also payment plans available This program is actually two parts and it's stretched over several months. So the first part is 12 weeks, the second part is 12 weeks. There's a break in between. Um, and so you can spread your payment out and it becomes actually quite affordable. And if you need another additional discount or sliding scale, I'm open to speaking with you about that individually. So you can go on my website at hollyfrench.com and check the Recreate You page out to get more information here. Also, to learn or to see how to book a clarity call with me. Okay, so the reason that I started this is that I believe all of us moms deserve a supportive community of moms lifting each other up, a safe space to learn and I'm sorry, to unlearn harmful beliefs and embrace empowerment, a creative incubator to spark ideas, play, and explore without judgment, a place for connection, encouragement, and mutual support through both successes and struggles, and an environment to nurture our personal dreams and foster meaningful growth. This program is designed to be really aware of our nervous system, really aware of these systems of oppression that we are up against, and the fact that we've often, excuse me, we've often been taught to believe that if we're not succeeding or we're not feeling happy, it's because there's something wrong with us and not the other way around. In fact, there's something wrong with the world that we're in and the way that it views us as women and mothers. And we have, if we're going to change the world to be better for our own children, it's got to start with us. It's got to start with us figuring out ways to place more value on ourselves and help build each other up. So these are two moms that have recently gone through the program. So you can see kind of some of their feedback. Stephanie, who is a work-at-home mom, um, commented on, in the beginning, she didn't think she was going to have enough time to do the program. She wasn't sure how it was going to work out. And then halfway through, this is when she made this comment of, I made showing up really easy. And she was surprised even herself at how the time that she took to participate in the group calls and the one-on-one calls and the program itself, that it was easier than she thought. It was much easier than she thought. Ashley mentioned similarly that when she started, she was really skeptical about how she was going to find the time to do this program. And then she found herself saying, I haven't thought of this program as, oh no, it's one more thing I have to do. And that alone versus being before when it was like, I don't have time for this, even at a really crazy time, it's been a natural thing to do this. So because we are really trusting our own nervous system, we are listening to when things come up, these obstacles or these doubts or inner critic, all these different things that may get in the way of us really changing the way we see ourselves and the world around us. Um, we're taking all of that into consideration and we're letting that unfold at its own pace. This is a really safe program for moms, and it's really important, I think, for it to be that safe because we have a tendency to just do, go, go, go. And my experience has been when it's in the slowing down and it's in the quiet and the listening that we actually are transformed. It is not about doing one more thing. We don't have time. We could have all the time in the world, honestly, and we would fill it up, right? Because we are programmed, we are driven individuals, we are, um, we actually get a lot of positive things from doing and being there for everyone else. Um, Often we are praised for that from a really early age, like, oh, you're such a good caretaker, or look at you taking care of your little siblings, and you're going to be such a good mama one day. Um, as you're, catering to your parents or you're catering to your siblings or whatever. I mean, it starts really early. So it's going to take a little while for us to acclimate and shift our perspectives, even if up here consciously we know this stuff that I presented already, or you know it to be true, it takes a lot longer for it to shift in our bodies. It takes longer for us to feel secure and comfortable taking on these new ways of showing up in the world. Um, and really living those things out. So, this is where I'm going to leave you for today. This is the end of the presentation. I hope I didn't go too fast through it. I do have a tendency sometimes to go fast when I'm nervous. But I've recorded this, so I will send out the recording to you after this, and you'll have a chance to go back through and listen. If you think that you want to book a clarity call, like I said, you can find that on the website. I also included the link in the emails that I sent out, um, reminding you about this program, and we'll be sending them out again whenever I send the recording. So you can look out for those to get the links to sign up for a clarity call with me, which is totally free. We'll get a chance to kind of talk through kind of what's going on in your life right now. Um, what are some of the challenges you're having? What areas of your life you feel like you need some more support around, and how this program may be a good fit or it may not be a good fit for you. It is not a sales call. It is not about me trying to sell this program. Um, I do talk about the program because like I talked about it with you, it is something that I do. It's something I feel really strongly about, but I talk about it in a sense of giving you information, not that I think everyone who calls me needs to be in this program. Honestly, I don't think I need to be working with every single person. I think if we're meant to work together, it's going to be very clear. We're going to click, you're going to feel good about me. I'm going to feel good about you. I'm not really interested in wasting anybody's time, especially if I don't feel like this is going to work for you. I don't want you to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. So the clarity call is really that. It's just for more clarity, for both of us on what you might need. And if I need to make referrals, for some different services, I will definitely do that. What else? I mentioned that one of you is going to get a free one-on-one with me for signing up for this. So I will be in touch and let you know after this and in the next day or two, probably. What else? I know I'm forgetting something. Oh, the Women Wildfire pop-up. We're going to have this. Oh, Holly, get it together. I think it's this Wednesday. Let me get it. Yes, this Wednesday at 12:30. So look out for the link for that as well. And I'm so glad that you signed up for this today. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any other questions or feedback for me, I am totally open. You can send me an email at holly@hollyfrench.com. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks.